Welcome back to Klinga Games, and welcome back to my hardcore reverse Genlocke series. My reverse Genlocke series is a challenge I'm doing where I'm playing a hardcore Nuzlocke of every Pokemon game. But the catch is that any Pokemon line that enters the Hall of Fame, or in the case of White, is on the team that beats N, is banned in all future games. For anyone unaware of what a Nuzlocke is a playstyle in Pokemon with self-imposed rules to increase the challenge. The main rules of a Nuzlocke are: one Pokemon can be caught from each area. If a Pokemon faints, it is dead and must be permanently boxed or released. And finally, all Pokemon must be nicknamed. For the hardcore rules, I cannot enter a gym battle over the level of the next gym leader or Elite Four's ace. No items in battle except for held items. And all battles must be played in set mode. I also play with the dupes and shiny clauses, so I can reroll encounters in any route until I find a new Pokemon, and I can catch any shinies I find unless they are banned from a previous game. These are the banned Pokemon so far. And these are the Pokemon banned in White 2. To keep the video reasonably short, I'll only mention the Pokemon that make some kind of an impact. Now let's go ahead and get into the run. Per the norm, I am introduced to the Professor of the region. Hello again, Juniper. And I nickname my trainer Kling after clarifying my gender. I also apparently get to name my rival in this game, but I was not prepared for this at all, so I leave the generic name of Hugh. Now is probably a good time to mention that this is the first time I've played White 2 since it released. I looked up all the level caps for each gym, and I have a vague recollection of some of the boss battles, but for all intents and purposes, this is a blind run, which could bode disaster for me. After skipping the introduction scene because it gives me motion sickness, I learned that my mom is friends with Professor Juniper, and I get main character privileges from it. Sweet! Nice going, Mom. I'm told to go find this new and mysterious character, Bianca. But on my way into town, I meet my rival and his little sister. Out of respect for the child present, I will keep my snark to a minimum as Hugh volunteers himself to also receive a Pokedex. Not cool, Hugh. Not cool at all. You don't get main character privilege. Oh well. I eventually find Bianca at the only notable location in town, and she asks if I want a Pokedex and a Pokemon. I obviously say yes. This video would have no purpose otherwise. And I choose Snivy, who I nicknamed Sniving Jr. in the honor of my first failed run in White. I know I already failed a run with Snivy, but it's my favorite starter and I do not like Samurott. If you disagree, feel free to bombard me with comments. While I was talking, Hugh also received a Pokedex after almost no argument from Bianca, and naturally he decides he wants to battle me immediately. To save everyone the annoyance of me saying tackle a bunch, we'll just skip to the part where I win. Hugh then tells me to get stronger like I wasn't already going to do that, and Bianca takes me to the nearest Pokecenter, where I get the longest and least helpful lecture about the basic features of Pokemon. On the bright side, I get some Pokeballs out of it. On the not bright side, Bianca tells me she's going to teach me how to use them. Once again, let's just skip past the annoying part, and get to my encounter for Route 19, which is another Patrat. Wow, 3 for 3 in Unova for the first Route Patrat. So naturally, I nickname him Pat 3. I then almost immediately set a new record for myself for quickest death. Pat 3 dies to a critical hit scratch after leveling up a single time and not even reaching the second town. Go me! So it's into the dead box for Pat 3, and Sniving is back on its own. Putting that behind me, I head towards the second town and meet the absolute Shad that is Alder. He jumps off another massive cliff and offers to train me after conducting an ocular pat-down, and reminds me to visit the Pokecenter often. Heading into Route 20, I get the chance to build my team. Unfortunately, my first encounter is banned due to being on the team that beat N. So I find my second encounter, which is a Sunkern. Really? I catch Sunkern and nickname it Funflower. 2 grass types and a dead rodent. If there is a worse way to start a Nuzlocke, I really hope I don't find it. After training up Funflower a little bit, I head into Flockacy Ranch and find an actual good encounter. A Psyduck, which at least helps our crippling fire-type weakness. I wasn't paying attention to the gender and nicknamed the Psyduck Bill. Sorry about that, Bill. A water type is an absolute godsend though, because Hugh ambushes me when I come back to the ranch with his fire type. What would have been an uphill battle turns into a 2-hit knockout. Bill is not ducking around. With that taken care of, Hugh and I are signed up to go find a missing Herdier after Hugh yells at the owners. When I find the Herdier, it's with Team Plasma, who lectures me for a bit and gives me a TM. Doesn't even battle me. I consider this an absolute win. After finishing up that little task, Alder has me beat up some children for him. Always enjoyable to see Alder, but he does have a weird habit of having people fight children. Regardless, after smacking them around, we finished everything we can. So after a little bit of training, it's time to take on the first gym led by a familiar face in Charon. Charon leads with his Patrat, and I lead with Funflower. A single tackle takes Funflower to just above half before he hits a Leech Seed. and it turns out it was a speed tie, letting Funflower hit a grass whistle on the following turn, which accomplishes absolutely nothing as Sniving Jr. switches in as Patrat wakes up and hits a crit tackle. Leech Seed helps Sniving recover some health before it sets up a growth, and Patrat hits another tackle, knocking Sniving into a berry range. Sniving recovers a good chunk of health from the berry and Leech Seed, giving us plenty of breathing room to set up even more growths without getting too low in health. When Sniving gets up to +4, a single Vine Whip knocks out the Patrat, leading to Sharon's ace, Lillipup. Lillipup incredibly takes only half from a +4 Vine Whip before knocking Sniving down to 7 HP. But Sniving is slightly faster, letting it finish off Lillipup on the next turn. A close, tough battle, but we managed to pull off the win and earn our first gym badge. But that Lillipup survival does not bode well for future Snivy damage. After we leave the gym, Bianca just gives us the TM for return, which is absolutely phenomenal. I completely forgot this happened in this game. Bianca is now officially my favorite professor. Oops, Juniper called right when I was saying that, but I'm sure she can deal with it. She's fine. As for Charon, Hugh has also decided to take him on. On my way through Route 20, Charon tells us about dark grass, and Hugh decides to spend the next 72 hours standing completely still. You have to admire the dedication. Just north, I have a genuinely terrifying battle with a schoolteacher and her Dunsparce. I lead with Bill and do pitiful damage with Water Gun as Dunsparce uses Defense Curl. Then after another Water Gun, Dunsparce starts to roll out with over half of its health remaining. Thank the Lord Bill has Disable. Without that single support move, this would have legitimately been a wipe. I wasn't even sure if Disable worked if Rollout was active. Very thankfully, it did work, and Psyduck managed to finish off Dunsparce with a couple more Water Guns. I don't generally like to mention random battles, but this one really got my heart racing in the moment. When I get to Burbank City, my mom calls me to accomplish nothing. And I get to see a reverse Bianca. A random girl is yelling at her dad for wanting to blow off his job to pursue an acting career. I don't think I need to see the movie to know that this man is an idiot. Just south, I head to the Burbank complex and get a new encounter, which ends up being an Elekid. To be honest, I was hoping for a fire type, but I'll never complain about getting the Electabuzz line. I do not do any trading in these runs, so unfortunately Electivire is off the table. Regardless, I catch the little plug, nickname her Zippy, and she joins the team. After training the team up in the general area, Sniving Jr. hits level 17 and evolves into Servine. I legitimately love Servine's design, and it's a big improvement across the board, but I don't think it'll get a lot of use in the upcoming Poison Gym. But there's only one way to find out, and that's to take on the Burbank Gym Leader, the Poison Master, Roxy. Roxy leads with her Coughing, and I lead with Bill the Psyduck. Bill hits a Confusion to take Coughing low before taking an Assurance, letting her finish it off with a second Confusion, leading to Roxy's ace, Whirlipede. Whirlipede protects on the first turn as we attempt Confusion, before outspeeding on the second turn and hitting a massive crit on Venoshock to take Bill low, and surviving a Confusion in the green. I am definitely not going to sacrifice Bill here, so I swap in Funflower, who also gets crit and one-shot with Venoshock. I highly doubt the crit mattered, but I bring in Zippy on the free switch and Whirlipede protects. Whirlipede then fails the double protect and gets taken into the yellow with Shockwave. Roxy then uses her super potion to heal Whirlipede before it takes another shock. Another protect before Zippy hits a third Shockwave to take Whirlipede below half, and takes a Venoshock surprisingly well, letting Zippy continue to fire away with Shockwaves, taking another Venoshock, and finally finishing off this menace with 2 more Shockwaves. I would say that gym did not go to plan. I was hoping to sweep with Bill, but we did manage to pull off the win, only losing Funflower in the process, and to be honest, I never expected him to live long. After the gym, I lay Funflower to rest in the dead box. RIP, little buddy. I also get invited to star in PokeStar Studios. How about, for everyone's benefit, I just skip that. With that out of the way, I tried to take a ship to the mainland, but guess who's being jerks outside? You guessed it, Team Plasma. I beat the grunt with no issues at all, but naturally they run off. And naturally, the gym leader just lets them. Fun, chasing the evil team. How original. They're getting worse at this hiding thing though, because I find the grunt just chilling in a field, and they run off again. Oh well. Roxy and her dad have another weird conversation about hobbies or dreams or something, and he finally decides to do his job and take me to Castelia City, where a clown gives me a bike. Thanks, I guess, but why? I stop by the gym, but once again, Berg isn't home and is dealing with more plasma shenanigans. Only this time, it's in the sewers. Fun stuff. Before I go down into the sewers, I head up to Route 4 to build up my team a little bit. and naturally I find a Minccino in the middle of a sandstorm. I thought Darumaka being here was weird enough, but why did they add Minccino? Putting that aside, I catch the little fluff ball and nickname him Duster. So it's off to the sewers where Hugh decides to team up with me. The team ups may seem like a good thing, but the trade-off for getting healed between battles is that every battle is a double battle. My, or I guess our, first encounters are a Zubat and a Grimer. I was hoping to catch the Zubat so I could get a 4x resistance to Bug, but naturally Hugh kills it immediately. Thanks a lot, Hugh. Luckily I do catch the Grimer with the first ball, so I nickname her Drip and she joins the team. Deeper in the sewers, I find some leftovers. Glossing over why and how these are here, this is a fantastic item. Just, ignore the smell. After checking out the entire sewer system, I decide Hugh's life goal is worthy of a little of my time, and we take on Team Plasma, who are just pushovers. Then Berg just shows up from the sewers and acts like that's not super weird. I also meet Colress, who stops by for a cameo. My reward for all this dumpster diving is access to the Castelia Park. Since this is technically considered a different location than the sewers, I get another new encounter. A P-Dove. Not ideal, especially since it's a female and doesn't get the mask. But I have a bug gym coming up, so I catch the little bird and nickname her No Mask. And the only thing really left for me to do is train the team up for the gym battle. During the training, No Mask hits level 21 and evolves into a Tranquil. Again, not great, but should be a useful team member in the upcoming Berg fight, which is coming up really quickly. In fact, it's already here. Berg leads with Swadloon and I lead with Bill. Bad lead by me. I thought I remembered him leading with a Whirlipede, so I swap Bill out and bring in No Mask, who gets string-shotted on her way in, but still manages to outspeed and one-shot the Swadloon with Air Cutter, leading to Berg's Dwebble, and a switch back into Bill on my side, who takes a smackdown fairly well, letting Bill knock it down to Sturdy with Water Pulse as Dwebble polishes its rock. A Super Potion heals it up as Bill confuses Dwebble with, well, Confusion. But Dwebble hits another smackdown through Confusion, before falling to another Water Pulse, bringing in Berg's ace, Leavanny. No Mask switches in again for Bill and manages to take a Razor Leaf very well. Leavanny then hits a cut before surviving an Air Cutter ridiculously well. But a Citrus Berry isn't enough to save it, as it falls to another Air Cutter, although it took No Mask low in the process. But that's the end of the battle, as we earn our third badge of the run with no further losses. Game Freak seems to enjoy placing another boss battle after the Berg Gym. In White, it was Bianca and Sharon. In White 2, we get a proper introduction to Colress, the weird scientist. And by introduction, I of course mean battle. Once again, I forgot about the boss battles in White 2 and lead Bill into Magnemite. I swap Bill out for Sniving Jr., who gets paralyzed by Thunder Wave on the swap. Magnemite then hits a soft Magnet Bomb before Sniving sets up Leech Seed. Drip then comes in for Sniving and gets hit with a Magnet Bomb as well. Magnemite then gets off a final Magnet Bomb before falling to Mud Bomb, leading to Colress's Clink. Clink charges before Drip misses a Mud Bomb. Another charge and Mud Bomb does pitiful damage. I start to get worried here and switch to Mud Slap, trying to lower Clink's accuracy since its special defense has gotten scary. After several turns of charges and Mud Slaps, Zippy switches in, but Clink hits through the drops and nails a Gear Grind. Then Sniving swaps in for Zippy and Clink hits through accuracy again, and gets a huge crit to take Sniving low. So then Bill comes in and thankfully Clink misses an attack. Bill then hits a Water Pulse for a round of 5th, before Clink hits through accuracy again and hits a Thundershock. Bill takes it like a champ and then follows up with Disable to keep Thundershock at bay. Another Water Pulse takes Clink to the low orange as it charges again, and then Water Pulse continues to do even less damage as Clink continues to charge. And then the worst case scenario happens and Colress heals Clink as Water Pulse does maybe a 10th. Bill tries to Water Pulse a couple more times before I decide to give up and switch to my resisted physical attack. Return does about a 5th on Clink, which is sad, but it's also my best move, letting Bill finally finish up this abomination with a couple more returns as Mud Slap finally pays off and Clink misses its Thundershocks, finally bringing an end to this battle. Colress has a reputation in White 2, and I think I finally understand it. Without Mud Slap and Disable, I probably would have lost a couple Pokemon there. Thankfully, the opposite happens and we have a lot of new routes open up to us now. First, I head to the Desert Resort and run into a Darumaka. Darumaka is a great encounter. Once it evolves, it has a monstrous attack. I catch the little thing and nickname him L. I wanted to name it L Flame, but I hit start accidentally, so now it's just L. After that, I head a little north to the Relic Castle and run into a Yamask. Yamask makes itself very easy to catch, which is always appreciated, so I gladly take my little ghost and nickname him Spooky, which seems to fit. Unfortunately, this is immediately followed up by me battling a Ranger with a Darumaka. Duster takes it pretty low with return and is immediately killed by Fire Punch. Oops. That one's on me. Especially when I had Bill in the back who could have easily one-shot it. I get a Rostberry, but that's not going to bring back my little fluffer. Duster gets laid to rest with the other former friends, and Spooky joins the team in his place. Next up on the docket is Route 16, where I run into a Trubbish. I know this Pokemon gets a lot of hate for its design, but I personally love the Trubbish line. It's the perfect combination of cute, weird, and stupid. So I catch the little trash bag and nickname her Baguette. With the new team members caught, I head to the PC and decide to make some changes. I switched Drip out for Baguette for 2 reasons. Baguette is a lot faster, which might help for future toxic strats, and I would like to save Muck for Alola and maybe get the regional form. I also switched No Mask out for L. This one's pretty obvious, L is just the better Pokemon. After training up the new members some, I hop back on the encounter train. This time heading into Route 5 and finding my all-time favorite psychic line, Solosis. I used a Reuniclus on my first playthrough in White and it's been a favorite since. So I gladly welcome Solosis and nickname him Jelly. And Jelly immediately replaces Spooky on the team. The rest of the encounters around the area don't get any use, so there's no point talking about them. Zippy, on the other hand, hits level 30 during training and evolves into an Electabuzz. The best design of its line, but unfortunately not the strongest, and I don't allow trade evolutions in my Nuzlocke, so an Electabuzz it will stay. And with that, it's time to take the runway down to Battle Unova's best gym leader / model, and not the other way around. Elisa leads with her Emolga, and I lead with Baguette. As expected, Emolga leads with a Volt Switch, letting Baguette tank it before slamming Flaffy with a Sludge Bomb. Baguette then outspeeds the Flaffy and knocks it out with a second Sludge Bomb, leading to Emolga, again, who Volt Switches once again, this time bringing in Elisa's ace, Zebstrika, letting me swap out my weekend trash bag for Sniving Jr. on a Volt Switch, bringing Emolga out once again. Surprisingly, Emolga stays in for pursuit, letting Sniving set up a Leech Seed on it. My plan was to Leech Seed the Zebstrika coming in, expecting it to stay in to Flame Charge me, but not only does Emolga stay in, it doesn't seem to have any flying moves, just alternating between Pursuit and Quick Attack, letting Sniving just sit and set up growths as Leech Seed and Leftovers keep him healthy, and giving Sniving a surprisingly easy KO on Emolga with only 3 points of health taken off. So Elisa brings in her ace Zebstrika back in. Zebstrika outspeeds Sniving and hits a big Flame Charge, but with his boosted stats, Sniving knocks it out with a Leaf Tornado. A very weird gym battle that did not go according to plan in the slightest, but based on the damage Flame Charge did to Sniving, that's probably for the best. My plan would have likely killed my starter. But hey, I'm not complaining, because I earned my 4th gym badge with no deaths. On my way out of the gym, Elisa and her entourage decide to escort me. Is this what it feels like to be popular? If it is, the feeling is short-lived. Hugh is picking a fight with 4 Team Plasma members, and when push comes to shove, he's outmatched and needs my help. But the grunts aren't very challenging. More of an annoyance than anything. After Team Plasma disappears, again, Hugh finally tells me why he's uptight all the time, and it's actually pretty sad. Maybe I shouldn't make fun of him as much. I mean, I still will, but maybe I shouldn't. Before I can leave town, I have to take down Heartbreaker Charles. The battle isn't too challenging, so I beat him and get to move along. And when I get across the bridge, I find a former and current Team Plasma member arguing about the morality of their team, before Hugh comes in and kicks the shit out of the current member. Damn, dude, why do you even need Pokemon? Anyway, I find the settlement of the former Team Plasma members, who explain to me why they did what they did and how they feel bad. And the old guy offers me a Zorua, which is dope, but my party is full and I never remember to go back. Oops. Anyway, while clearing out the trainers in the area, Jelly hits level 32 and evolves into a Dewotion. He's getting more jelly-like by the minute. Just a little north, I head into Chargestone Cave and find a new encounter, this time being Tynamo, another line that I used in my original run of White. I hate what they did to the animations in the 3D games, but still another favorite of mine. So I catch the little guy and nickname him Eeler. Other than that, the only thing to do is to get ready for the gym, and during the process, Bill hits level 33 and evolves into a Golduck. A big upgrade in the stats department, but a bigger downgrade in the looks department. And now there's literally nothing else to do except to take on the Groundmaster, Clay. Clay leads with his Krokorok, and I lead with Sniving Jr. As usual, Sniving starts the battle with a Leech Seed as Krokorok hits a light Bulldoze. Then Sniving swaps out for Bill as Krokorok Torments, before falling to a single Water Pulse, leading to Clay's Sandslash. Bill can't go for Water Pulse again and is forced to use Confusion as Sandslash hits Bulldoze. Then as I try to disable Bulldoze, Sandslash outspeeds and uses Fury Cutter, so the useless bug move is disabled. I then swap out to Sniving again as Sandslash starts to use Rollout. Leaf Blade takes Sandslash low before a second Rollout hits, but Sandslash is now locked in and can't be healed, letting Sniving knock it out with another Leaf Blade, leading to Clay's ace, Excadrill. Sniving sets up a leech seed again before taking a surprising amount of damage from Bulldoze. Then Excadrill follows up with a rock slide that takes Sniving into the yellow and gets the flinch. So I swap out to Bill, and luckily Excadrill switches to the resisted Metal Claw, before outspeeding Bill with a big slash, but it fails to get the knockout and Bill finishes off Excadrill with Water Pulse, earning us the unexpectedly difficult win and earning us the 5th gym badge, over halfway done with the gym challenge at this point. Clay decides that before I can leave town I have to participate in the Driftville City Tournament, which is a very cool feature, but I don't know why it's mandatory other than the Colress fight in the finals. To save time, I'm going to skip over the tournament and just mention that I finally have access to the move deleter, so I can replace Cut with Return on Sniving, and my Pokemon at the Clay level cap are surprisingly overpowered for this tournament. I'm not sure what rules are in place about Pokemon fainting in this tournament, but I didn't lose any, so it doesn't matter. And naturally, Team Plasma has its ship docked directly outside the tournament for Hugh to see and attack, despite Colress's objections. We get surrounded by grunts that are easily knocked out with almost no effort. Then one of the evil sages shows up and has us kicked off the ship by the Shadow Triad. If these dudes are seriously magical like this, why bother using Pokemon to take over the world? Oh well, with that I can finally leave Driftville City behind me and continue my quest. Unfortunately, on my way through Chargestone Cave I run into Ace Trainer Shay. Shay leads with an Archon and I lead with Jelly. I have a bit of a misplay here and overestimate Jelly's bulk. Archon outspeeds and nails an Acrobatics for a one-hit KO. Zippy comes in and returns the favor with an outspeed and an Oko with Shockwave, leading to Shay's own Electabuzz. Sniving comes in and takes care of the Electabuzz with no real issues, just Leech Seed and a Leaf Blade to take it down and beat Shay. But the damage is done and I lose one of my favorite Pokemon lines. The worst part is, this trainer is completely optional. I went out of my way to battle him. So Jelly gets laid to rest in the dead box with our other former team members, and Spooky rejoins the team in his place. On the bright side, after we return to Chargestone Cave, Ella hits level 35 and evolves into a Darmanitan. A massive improvement, not only getting a huge stat buff, but dropping the Hustle ability for sheer power. So I won't have to worry about random misses with him. And we get through Chargestone Cave and meet Professor Juniper for the first time, and she gives us a free Master Ball. Dope! Thanks, Professor! Also, Skyla shows up, and Juniper says she's going to explore until I get my gym badge. How very convenient. As I explore Route 7, I get a random call from my mom. She doesn't tell me anything important, but it is raining, so I don't have time to talk. And immediately after, Baguette hits level 36 and not only learns Toxic, it evolves into its final form, Garbodor. One of my favorite Pokemon, but unfortunately it has its ability changed to Weak Armor, which limits its stalling ability. And before I can even celebrate, Sniving Jr. hits level 36 as well and also evolves to its final form, Superior. My all-time favorite starter, and even better, no downsides, just getting a better Pokemon out of it. After getting those nice boosts, I head into Celestial Tower and Juniper gives me a lucky egg. A Master Ball and a lucky egg? I'm sorry what I said earlier about Bianca, Juniper is the best professor. And on the second floor I find my encounter for the area, a Litwick, which evolves into an absolute powerhouse, but not until I get a Duskstone. I also don't pay attention to the gender again and nickname my female Litwick Mr. Flame. And a few levels up, Spooky hits level 33 and evolves into a Cofagrigus. Not my favorite Pokemon, but it does have Crazy Bulk, which helps our future stall strats, and gives us a team of fully evolved Pokemon. At the top of the tower, I ring the bell, and nothing interesting happens. Huh, weird. Well, anyway, after a little bit of training, it's time to take on the Flying Master, Skyla. Skyla leads with their Swoobat, and I lead Zippy. Zippy outspeeds and hits Discharge for a one-hit KO, leading to Skyla's ace, Swanna, who was also outsped and one-shot with Discharge. So Skyla brings out her Skarmory, which is not a one-shot from Discharge thanks to its sturdy ability, letting it set up an agility. So Skyla heals it up before Shockwave takes it down to the red again, and Skarmory gets off a pretty weak Steel Wing before falling to Discharge. Well, that was certainly something. I would argue that's in the running for our easiest gym battle of the challenge. Way to go, Zippy, an easy 6th gym badge there. After leaving the gym, Juniper lets me know she's ready for me to continue the plot. Thanks, Juniper. We get ready to leave and Bianca rushes in to join us. The more the merrier, I guess. So we take off and immediately end up in Lintimus Town. But on the real, that was a pretty cool plane cutscene. And we get treated to a much less cool speech from Juniper about the legendary dragons, before she finally just asks me to go and learn about it from Drayden, the 7th gym leader of the game. After finally getting all that done with, I head into the Reversal Mountain and find a Camerupt. I would probably say Camerupt is the worst fire type in the game, but hey, an encounter is an encounter. So I won't turn it down, catching the Camerupt and nicknaming her Cam. Which is probably a good thing, because tragedy immediately strikes as I run into another Camerupt while leaving the grass. I lead with Sniving and expect a fire type move, so I swap into L, but Camerupt goes for a blind earth power and immediately kills my L. So I essentially traded the best fire type in the game for the worst. Go me. L gets laid to rest in the dead box and I add Mr. Flame to the team in his place. Also I got the chance to look at my Camerupt and it turns out wild Camerupts at that level don't have fire moves. I can't tell if that makes L's death better or worse. While I was pondering that question, Bianca escorts me through Reversal Mountain to Undella Bay. After visiting the villa, I head south to Route 14 to find a new encounter, and I find a Swablu, which is not a great dragon, but it does evolve into a dragon, so I can't get too picky here. So I go ahead and catch the little cloud bird and nickname him Fluff, and Fluff immediately replaces Mr. Flame on the team, before I get ambushed by Hugh as I try to head north. Hugh leads with his Unpheasant and I lead with Baguette. I switch out for Zippy as Baguette charges a Razor Wind, which it never gets to use, immediately following to a Discharge, leading to Hugh's ace, Embor, in an immediate swap to Bill on my side, who barely survives a crit takedown, so I switch again into Spooky, who is immune to takedown but takes big damage from Assurance before knocking Embor below half with Shadow Ball. Then Spooky gets knocked to just above half from a second Assurance before knocking Embor to a Sliver, and getting a special defense drop before Hugh heals up his pig, letting Spooky knock it below half and then knocking out with 2 more Shadow Balls, only taking 1 more Assurance in the process, leading to Hugh's final Pokemon, Simipour. So I swap in Sniving, who gets immediately burnt by Scald. Sniving then sets up Leech Seed before getting hit with Scald again, which heals up Sniving and gets some passive damage on Simipour, letting Sniving bring the surprisingly close battle to a finish with 2 Leaf Blades. Hugh got a lucky crit and a burn there, but he's tougher than I gave him credit for. I was lucky to get out of that fight with no losses. Heading north, I get one encounter that doesn't see any play before Fluff hits level 35 and evolves into Altaria. It's always nice to get a dragon type for a playthrough, even if it's the worst one in the game. After that, not a whole lot happens until I get to Opelucid City. I get a lot of new encounters, but none of them see any play. In Lacunosa Town, Juniper makes me listen to an old lady's story, and I have to fight more Plasma members, but that's more of a speed bump than anything interesting. Unfortunately, the interesting thing that happens when I get to Opelucid City is that I enter a double battle in Route 9. I had Spooky facing down 2 dark types, so I swap into Fluff, who immediately gets killed when it gets doubled up into. Well shit, that's what I get for being excited about a Pokemon I caught, I guess. Thankfully, Bill is able to come in and take down the killing combo with Sniving's help, but the damage is done, so I look around Route 9 for a replacement Pokemon, and I end up finding a Liepard. Well, technically a Liepard and a Minccino, but mine died already, so it's not an option. If we're being completely honest, I was really hoping to get a Pawniard, but beggars can't be choosers and I can't afford to lose another Pokemon right now, so I throw my Master Ball at the Dark Cat and nickname him Mr. Meowgi, and Mr. Meowgi immediately gets added to the team. So with my team restored to 6 Pokemon, I get them trained up to take on the Dragon Master Drayden. Drayden leads with Druddigon and I lead with Spooky. Druddigon starts the battle with a massive crunch and Spooky misses its Will-O-Wisp, so I have to risk a crit, letting Spooky get taken low before it hits its follow-up Wisp, giving me a relatively free switch to Sniving on a weak crunch, and I have Sniving start to set up coils as Druddigon hits some light attacks, and I even managed to get 4 coils off before I get reminded why setting up on Drayden isn't a great play. His signature move is Dragon Tail, which forces your Pokemon out. Oops. So Baguette gets pulled into the battle, but I immediately swap her out for Sniving again on a revenge. Drayden then heals up Druddigon as Sniving sets up Coil again, and hits a Leech Seed on the next turn before taking a weak crunch again. So I get back to testing my luck with coils again, this time only getting to 3 before getting forced out again. This plan honestly seemed like a good idea when I didn't remember Dragon Tail, but Sniving barely manages to come in before Druddigon goes down to burn and seed damage, bringing in Flygon. Sniving sets up Leech Seed again, but Flygon hits a crit on Earth Power to take Sniving below half. So Sniving gets back to setting up coils, managing to get 3 off as Sniving switched to the physical Rock Slide, so the defense boosts actually help. But once again, as the 3rd coil gets set up, Sniving is forced out and Baguette is forced in. So Sniving comes in once again, this time on a non-crit Earth Power. And I finally come to my senses, knocking out Flygon with a Leaf Blade, leading to Drayden's ace, Haxorus. Sniving gets another Leech Seed off before Haxorus sets up a scary Dragon Dance. So I swap Sniving out for Baguette as a second Dragon Dance comes out. Then Drayden completely saves my team, getting greedy with a 3rd Dragon Dance right before Baguette resets his stats with Clear Smog. Haxorus eats a Citrus Berry and sets up another Dragon Dance before Baguette hits him with Toxic to maximize the passive damage. After that, all Baguette has to do is take a Slash, hit another Clear Smog, and outspeed for a Sludge Bomb to finish Haxorus and the battle. This kind of battle is exactly why I love to play Nuzlocke as blind as possible. I had a strategy I thought would work, but completely fell apart, and I had a lot of fun improvising and testing my luck with Coil. A tougher battle than expected, but luckily I get the 7th badge with no deaths. After leaving the gym, I visit Drayden in his house and get a lecture about the history of the legendary dragons. And coincidentally, right after we step outside, a flying ship passes overhead and hits the dragon village with ice. Bad matchup, Drayden. Then Team Plasma shows up and asks for the DNA splicers. I don't think they thought this plan through. What was their backup plan if they froze the DNA splicers? That would have been pretty anticlimactic for them. But unfortunately for all of us, Drayden kept them in a safe location. So I have to spend the rest of my afternoon beating up Plasma Grunts in the cold, before chasing down Zinzalin back at the gym. Just in time for him to beat up his team and stop him from getting the DNA splicers. Just for them to be stolen by ninjas. Damn, Shadow Triad, could you let me have them for like 5 minutes? Naturally, this immediately leads to another section where I have to chase down the bad guys and fight them one by one. Or so you would think, because Charon calls us after the first member and tells us we need to invade Team Plasma's ship, which is coincidentally parked near the final gym. Nice for us, 2 birds with 1 stone. So it's time to take on Universe resident water expert, Marlon, in what should be a very easy battle for my team at this point. Marlon leads with his Caracosta and I lead with Sniving. Sniving gets an early Leech Seed set up as Caracosta hits a light crunch. With Leech Seed up and leftovers attached, Sniving can set up coils basically for free. After the second coil, Crunch is doing so little damage, Sniving gets brought up to full at the end of the turn. And after the third coil, Caracosta sets up a Shell Smash to try and stay relevant. But at this point, it's the Sniving show as Caracosta falls to a Leaf Blade. Next up, Marlon brings in his Wailord, who gets 1 shot on the first turn with Leaf Blade, leading to Marlon's very unfortunate ace, Jellicent, a personal favorite of mine who doesn't stay long after another Leaf Blade. Really anticlimactic final battle, but Marlon's team was almost handcrafted to be swept by Coil Superior. So I couldn't really pass up that chance to let my starter cook, and Marlon takes the loss well as he jumps in the water and swims away. With the final gym badge in hand, it's time to take on Team Plasma for the final time. But first, Colress stops us to hand over the Colress machine, which has the vaguely useful ability to energize Pokemon. He also tells me where to go, but I didn't listen and ended up getting blocked by 2 Plasma Grunts, before eventually finding and defeating the Crustle, blocking my path to the Plasma Frigate. And Marlon, the MVP, opens the door for us. I can't believe he swam all the way here. That's honestly impressive. Him just leaving is less impressive though. So it's on to the Plasma Frigate, where a small army of Team Plasma Grunts are waiting to get beaten. None of the Grunts pose any challenge though, as we quickly make our way into the Kyurem Chamber to fight Zinzalin again. With Hugh having an Emboar and Zinzalin using all ice types, this battle really isn't worth commenting. Naturally, after the battle, Hugh gives a big lecture about his sister's stolen Pokemon before the ninjas kidnap us again. Why don't more Pokemon villains just overpower the child protagonists like this? Anyway, the plasma ship flies off, making us chase it down once again. For the real final time this time. And this time it's actually in the giant chasm. When I get to the chasm, I have to fight a Plasma Grunt who leads with a Weezing, and I lead with Mr. Meowgi. Mr. Meowgi hits a Night Slash, but the Weezing immediately explodes and kills my little cat, adding another death to the board. Spooky comes in to take down the Muck and avenge his fallen comrade. And the good sage decides to rub salt in the wound and gives me some max revives after the fight. 1, I can't use these. 2, too soon bro. Mr. Meowgi is laid to rest and Cam the Camerupt joins the team in his place, giving me a Fire Water Grass core for the team. After training Cam up to match the rest of the team, I head to the giant chasm to give it another shot. This time I actually make my way to and through the frigate with no deaths, successfully making my way through the grunts and the teleport puzzle, and encounter Zinzalin for what I sincerely hope is the final time. Cam makes this battle a cakewalk, so once again, I'm not wasting time on it. The real battle is with Colress in the next room. Colress leads with his Magneton and I lead with Sniving. Sniving sets up a Leech Seed before getting paralyzed with Thunder Wave, so I swap into Cam who takes a Flash Cannon surprisingly well. With Cam out, I don't expect Magneton to use any stab moves and swap out to Spooky, and that's how I learned Magneton has Tri-Attack. And with Leech Seed up, I know I can cheese this thing. By constantly switching between Cam and Spooky, I force the AI to use moves that the incoming Pokemon is immune to, letting me take down the Magneton basically for free, and it works like a charm. I even get Colress to waste a full restore on a doomed Pokemon. After the Magneton goes down, Colress sends in a scarier Pokemon in Magnezone. Naturally, I try the same cheese strat, switching to Spooky, but Magnezone goes for a Flash Cannon on the switch that does nearly half to my Ghost. We then trade status conditions as Spooky gets hit by Thunder Wave before landing a Will-O-Wisp. I then switch into Cam who only takes about a quarter from the incoming Flash Cannon. before swapping into Spooky again and getting hit into the orange. I then get Sniving evolved, who gets hit just above half from yet another flash cannon, and then gets hit into the red before luckily moving through paralysis and landing another leech seed. Then I go back into Spooky, who gets taken down to only 2 HP from another flash cannon, but gets healed up a decent amount from leftovers and leech seed. Then I swap into Cam for Magnezone's final turn. It must have run out of flash cannons because it finally goes for an electric type move, letting Cam come in for free, leading to Colress's Clink-a-Clang. Clink-a-Clang goes for a shift gear as Cam hits it with a yawn. And Clink-a-Clang goes for yet another shift gear, but I waste the turn going for Earth Power because I didn't bother to read the air balloon warning. But I don't get punished as Cam goes for a near full HP eruption, one-shotting the Clink-a-Clang. Next, Colress brings in his Behem. I don't know what to expect from this thing, so I go for a yawn, surprisingly outspeeding before Behem sets up a Calm Mind. So I go for a Rock Slide, which only does about a third before Behem sets up another Calm Mind and goes to sleep. My next Rock Slide seems to get a worse roll as Behem only falls to less than half on its first sleep turn. And my third Rock Slide takes Behem into the red, but luckily it stays asleep for another turn, letting Cam finish it off with a 100% accurate eruption, leading to Colress's last Pokemon, Metang. I make a bit of a misplay going for Yawn because I assumed Cam would be outsped, but Yawn hits first before Metang sets up an agility. But luckily Cam survives the follow-up Zen Headbutt before bringing the fight to an end with Earth Power. I really did not expect Cam to be this useful. Fully expected him to die in this battle, but he was the unanimous MVP. And he impressed Colress so much that Colress lets us proceed through the frigate, where I run into Getsis, who gives us another long-winded speech. And then the Shadow Triad decides to fight me to decide if they'll give Hugh his Pokemon. Really weird logic there, but the ninjas are a complete pushover for my team, and Hugh gets to stand in the corner while I achieve his life's goal for him. Good work, Hugh. And now all that's left in Team Plasma for us to fight is Getsis, and this will all be over. Oh, and I guess Kyurem. I have to fight that too. But luckily, N is here to save me. Theoretically, of course. Because as soon as N arrives, his Reshiram is stolen and he makes Kyurem way stronger. Damn it, N, can you stop helping the bad guys for like one game? That's all I'm asking here. So I lead the battle with Baguette. As Kyurem charges its Ice Burn, Baguette hits a Toxic to put this battle on a timer. So I swap in Bill to take the Ice Burn, who does not take it well at all and gets taken below half on a resisted move. So I bring in Cam next, who gets hit with a Slash for about a quarter. Kyurem then starts to charge another Ice Burn as Cam hits an Earth Power for a surprising amount of damage, knocking Kyurem low enough for toxic damage to finish it off. Cam once again is the surprise MVP of a difficult battle. But of course that is not the end because I still have to deal with Getsis. Getsis leads with Cofagrigus against my Baguette, and Baguette manages to hit a Toxic before getting hit below half with Psychic, so I swap in Spooky for a family reunion as it takes a small amount of damage. Then I swap Baguette in, expecting a Shadow Ball, but Cofagrigus just wastes its turn with Toxic. So then I swap Spooky in, again on a Psychic, as toxic damage builds up, letting Spooky finish it off with a Shadow Ball before getting hit with Toxic. Next up for Getsis is his Electros, so I bring out Cam, who ignores the incoming Thunderbolt. Cam then takes a Crunch and has his defense drop before hitting a Yawn, letting me bring in Sniving as Electros falls asleep. Sniving then uses his next 2 turns to set up a coil and hit a Leech Seed as Electros sleeps. Next, Sniving sets up a second coil, but Electros wakes up and hits a big Flamethrower, so Sniving uses a Leaf Blade to finish off the eel. I really can't explain this next move by Getsis as he brings in Seismitoad, who obviously falls to another Leaf Blade. Next up, Getsis brings in his Drapion. Sniving sets up a Leech Seed before Drapion hits a pretty hard X-Scissor. Sniving then sets up a third coil before getting hit with X-Scissor again. I then really test my luck, getting a fourth coil up before taking another X-Scissor, before Sniving finishes off the Scorpion with a return, leading to the next Pokemon, Toxicroak, who hits a critical hit Sucker Punch, taking Sniving down to 10 HP before getting one shot with return, and bringing out Getsis' ace, his illegal Hydreigon. Sniving hits the Hydreigon with a +4 return, which does not KO. But luckily, Getsis goes for the overkill with Dragon Rush, which obviously misses. Getsis then tries to heal up his dragon, but Sniving outspeeds and is able to finish off the battle with 2 more returns. Thank God Game Freak gave this thing Dragon Rush, such a terrible move. Getsis apparently agrees as he rage quits after losing his evil empire to a 10-year-old child. Again. So the ninjas decide to take him out for ice cream to cheer him up and they leave. Then N decides to give me a speech before flying out of the cave on Reshiram. And Hugh shows up for some reason. I honestly couldn't tell you. And with that, the story's completed, and there's really only one more challenge standing in my way. That's right, a level 47 Vanillish in the Giant Chasm, because apparently Zippy's Thunderbolt doesn't one-shot, and it has Mirror Coat. Well shit. I guess that's payback for the Dragon Rush miss. So Zippy becomes the latest resident in the dead box, and Ealer joins the team in his place. After training Ealer up, it hits level 39 and evolves from a pathetic Tynamo into an Electric. And I immediately use the Thunderstone to evolve my brand new Electric to an Electros. Can I just mention how great the breeders are around Unova for training? Now there's only one thing standing in my way of the league, and that is Pokemon Trainer Lena? Lena leads with a Floatzel and I lead with Spooky, who swaps into Sniving, who takes Knockotail easily and takes it out with Leaf Blade. But then Lena brings out her Lucario, so I bring in Cam as Lucario sets up Calm Mind. Another Calm Mind lets Lucario survive an Earth Power before it outspeeds and takes out Cam with an Aura Sphere. This loss hurt. I don't know how helpful Cam would have been against the league, but this is the first Camerupt I've ever used and I got attached to it. Goodbye Sweet Prince, gone but not forgotten. Cam is placed in the dead box and Mr. Flame rejoins the team. Worst part was, that was the final trainer before Victory Road. N shows up to see me off as I pass through the 8 gates to prove I have all the badges. Pretty cool gates this time. Not as cool as Black and White, but a lot faster to go through. While making my way through Victory Road, Mr. Flame hits level 41 and evolves into a Lampent. Then I immediately use the Dust Stone I picked up to evolve Mr. Flame again into a Chandelure, a very powerful Pokemon that should contribute to the team. And after that, I miraculously don't lose any more Pokemon and run into Hugh at the end of Victory Road. Hugh leads with his Unpheasant and I lead with Spooky. Unpheasant hits a Swagger before Spooky lands a Will-O-Wisp to burn it. Then Ealer comes in on a soft Aerial Ace before Hugh hits a U-turn and swaps to Bouffalant on a Thunderbolt. So I bring Spooky back in to ignore the head charge. Spooky then gets hit by a Wild Charge before hitting Will-O-Wisp again. With the Buffalo burnt, Spooky can stay in to take all of his attacks and respond with returns. Hugh does decide to heal it up when it gets taken to low health, but Spooky is able to stay in and wear it back down for the KO, leading to Hugh's Semi-Pour, which hits a big Surf before Spooky misses Will-O-Wisp. So I bring in Sniving, who takes minimal damage from a couple Surfs as it sets up Leech Seed, for no reason, knocking Semi-Pour out on the next turn with Leaf Blade. So Hugh brings in his Ace Emboar and I swap to Bill on a Flamethrower. Bill then takes Emboar into the red with Surf before taking a Brick Break into the orange. But Bill outspeeds, so he takes out Emboar on the next turn. And Hugh brings his Unpheasant back in, so it's a quick swap back into Ealer, who takes a couple hard Facades but is able to finish the fight with a Spark, beating Hugh for the final time and earning us the right to take on the Elite Four along with a Thunderbolt TM. So let's take a quick look at the team before we take on the Elite Four. The team has some very good Pokemon on it, including some of my favorite Pokemon in general. It's really cool to still have my starter and Bill on this team. The two of them have seen the entirety of Unova, and now have a chance to become champion. So it's time to get started. This time we'll be taking on Marshall as our first member. Marshall leads with Throw and I lead with Spooky. Throw hits a soft payback before Spooky lands a Will-O-Wisp. Next I switch in Sniving on another payback and set up Leech Seed before getting hit with Bulldoze. I'm sure you can guess what happens next, as Sniving sets up Coils and brushes off Throw's weakened physical attacks. And after setting up 3 Coils, Sniving takes out Throw with Leaf Blade, leading to Mienshao, who hits a soft high jump kick before also falling to Leaf Blade. Third is Conkeldurr, who takes out Leaf Blade into the orange before eating its berry and using Bulk Up. But it's not enough as it falls to another Leaf Blade, leading to the final Pokemon Sock, who loses its sturdy ability thanks to Mummy and falls to a single Leaf Blade. One member down with very minimal effort on our part. I love Coil Superior. Next up on the docket is the Dark-type Master, Grimsley. Grimsley leads with Liepard and I lead with Spooky. Liepard hits an Attract to start and Spooky misses its Will-O-Wisp attempt. Liepard then hits Night Slash before Spooky attacks through Attraction and hits its second Will-O-Wisp. So I bring in Sniving again on a light Night Slash, and Sniving once again starts to set up Coils. Liepard unfortunately has Aerial Ace though and starts to hit Sniving fairly hard along with hitting another Attract. But between the burns and the coils, Sniving is able to knock out Liepard with a Leaf Blade. Scrafty comes in next and manages to poison Sniving with Poison Jab as Sniving sets up Leech Seed, which turns out to be another misplay on my part as Leaf Blade takes it down in one hit on the next turn. Third up is Bisharp, and Sniving has to switch, so I bring in Ealer on a Night Slash. A second Night Slash takes Ealer into the red before Bisharp takes a Flamethrower into the orange. So I swap again into Bill on a Night Slash, but thankfully Bill only has to take one, outspeeding and finishing Bisharp with a Scald, leading to Grimsley's final Pokemon, Crocodile. Crocodile outspeeds and hits a massive Earthquake to take Bill to 17 HP before Bill responds with a Scald to get the OHKO. This battle did not go according to plan, but we managed to pull through and win with no losses, thanks to some clutch survives by Ealer and Bill. 2 down, 2 to go, starting with Caitlin, the Psychic-type Master of Unova. Caitlin leads with Musharna and I lead with Spooky. Spooky outspeeds and hits a massive Shadow Ball before Musharna hits a Yawn. So I swap to Sniving, but Caitlyn calls the swap and hits another yawn, and really sticks to that plan as I bring in Spooky on a third yawn. A fourth yawn in a row hits Mr. Flame on the swap, and a fifth yawn hits Sniving again. Sixth yawn into Mr. Flame, and a seventh yawn hits Sniving. Caitlyn is really determined to put something to sleep, as Mr. Flame and Sniving are hit with the 8th, 9th, and 10th consecutive yawn. And Caitlyn finally runs out of yawns as Sniving is hit with a charge beam. And Sniving takes it extremely low with Leaf Blade before taking another charge beam, and Caitlyn uses a full restore as Sniving sets up Leech Seed, allowing Sniving to safely set up coils, healing off the charge beam damage. After the second coil, Sniving hits a Leaf Blade to finally take down the Musharna. Next up is Sigilyph, who looks scary but is easily outsped and knocked out with a +2 return, leading to Caitlyn's third Pokemon, Reuniclus. Sniving takes Reuniclus deep into the red, but here's where I messed up. I thought the Elite Four members had multiple full restores, so expecting Caitlyn to heal, I set up another coil, only for Reuniclus to kill my Sniving with Focus Blast. A brutal mistake, losing my main source of offense for the run. Thankfully, Mr. Flame is able to finish off Reuniclus and Gothitelle, but now I am forced to improvise for the rest of the run. And that improvisation starts with Chantal and her Ghost-type team. Chantal leads with Cofagrigus, and I lead with Baguette. Baguette starts off with a Toxic before taking a Psychic to just above half. I then bring Mr. Flame in, and Chantal uses Will-O-Wisp, activating Flash Fire. And Mr. Flame is able to finish off Cofagrigus with a Shadow Ball, leading to Golurk. Mr. Flame hits a Will-O-Wisp before Golurk hits an Earthquake, taking Mr. Flame below half. Ealer then comes in, but Golurk switches to Shadow Punch, hitting for some light damage. But Ealer's still able to stay in and hit a Crunch, taking Golurk low, and forces Chantal to use up her full restore before Ealer takes Golurk below half again with Crunch, letting Ealer finish it off with a third, leading to Chantal's Chandelure. Chandelure hits a big energy ball to take Ealer low and drop his defenses, before Ealer does over half with Crunch. Hoping for another energy ball, I swap Ealer out into Mr. Flame, but Chandelure switches to Psychic, killing my Chandelure and crippling my offense even further. Thankfully, this does give Bill a free switch in, letting it outspeed and knock out Chandelure. And Chantal brings in her last Pokemon, Drifblim. Bill hits a big Ice Beam to take Drifblim below half, but also takes a big Thunderbolt. But Bill is still faster, letting it finish off the Ghost team with another Ice Beam. So I've beaten the Elite Four, but lost 2 of my best Pokemon in the process. Not an ideal run so far, but never say die. So with only 4 Pokemon left and only the champion to go, I use Rare Candies on Bill, and it's time to take on the final challenge of Pokemon White 2, Pokemon Champion Iris. The former gym leader leads with Hydreigon, and I lead with Bill. Hydreigon hits a Dragon Pulse for about a third, and Bill hits an Ice Beam, which gets a crit and one-shots Hydreigon. Next, Iris brings out her Lapras. I need to save Bill for later, so I swap out for Ealer, and Lapras hits a Sing on the swap. Well, crap. Lapras then proceeds to outspeed and knock out Ealer with 2 Surfs before I can even move. Make that 3 Pokemon as I bring in Baguette. Baguette hits Toxic as Lapras thankfully misses another Sing, and Baguette does pitiful damage with Sludge Bomb before taking a third from Surf. I want to keep Lapras out of full restore range, so I switch to Clear Smog and get a crit to take Lapras deep into the orange, before taking an Ice Beam to 54 HP. Toxic then takes Lapras into the red, so Iris heals it with a full restore, but I expected this and hit another Toxic. Baguette then outspeeds for Light Sludge Bomb before Lapras hits another Sing to put it to sleep. Surf then takes Baguette deep into the red during the guaranteed sleep turn, and Baguette stays asleep, letting Lapras take it out with a final Surf. So now I'm down to 2 Pokemon against 5 as I bring in Bill, but Bill hits a Psychic to take out Lapras. 2 against 4 now as Iris brings in Druddigon. Bill then outspeeds to hit an Ice Beam and gets another crit to take Druddigon out. Bill must think this is Gen 6 because he's pulling out the friendship crits. 3 Pokemon to go, and Iris brings out Aggron. A questionable decision at best, as Bill outspeeds and knocks it out with a Scald. 2 Pokemon to go, and Iris brings in her ace, Haxorus. Haxorus starts with a Dragon Dance, and Bill hits an Ice Beam to take it into the orange. And Haxorus uses Earthquake. But Bill survives with 7 HP and responds with an Ice Beam to finish off Haxorus, leading to Iris' final Pokemon, Archeops, who immediately outspeeds and finishes Bill's run with Dragon Claw, leading to my final Pokemon, Spooky. Archeops hits a Rock Slide for a third, and Spooky flinches. Oh man, not like this. Archeops goes for another Rock Slide, but it misses, and Spooky hits the Will-O-Wisp. We have a chance now. Archeops outspeeds and hits an Acrobatics, and loses its Defeatist ability. Damn you, mummy. But Spooky responds with a massive Shadow Ball to take Archeops into the orange. We only need 1 attack now, and Archeops gives it to us, missing its final Rock Slide and letting Spooky finish the Archeops, the battle, and the run with a final Shadow Ball. Now that was one of the most fun Elite Fours I've done. I had some massive misplays that ultimately cost me sniving, which could have been a massive help against Iris. After that loss, I had to improvise with what I had left, and I got the most clutch performance I have ever seen out of Bill. Per the rules of the run, all of the Pokemon on my team for the champion fight will be banned from future runs, including the Pokemon that fainted during the Elite Four. I'm really sorry for how long it took me to put this up. I had some personal things happening since I finished this run, and I got more than a little caught up playing Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. It's great, definitely recommend. The next game I will be playing is Pokemon X, which I'm honestly excited about. I haven't played through the game since it came out. So it will be an extremely blind run, and it's the first game with the Experience All feature, which should definitely cut down on training time. So keep an eye out for when I finish that run. I've been Klinga Games, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll join me for Pokemon X.